Welcome to episode 2 of Matire Ngemi, a bi-weekly podcast where we help you learn about your Agikuyu culture, history, and heritage in English and in a fun, light-hearted way. I'm Njeri Wadiho, your anchor, and I'm here with Waiyaki Njeri, your cultural enthusiast who continues to immerse himself in learning the ways of our ancestors. So in today's episode, we'll have you listen to a conversation that Waiyaki and I had yesterday. And let me tell you, this conversation blew my mind. And my assumptions about the simplicity of our culture were really challenged. And then they were replaced with an awareness of the richness, the depth, and the intentionality in the ways of our Agikuyu ancestors. So today, we'll take you through a journey of 3 topics. The first is the value of children in the Agikuyu culture, and we'll draw some parallels to old Europe and current-day US. Second, we'll talk about Ngemis, and my goodness, when you hear this discussion, if you're like me, you will never say and hear Ngemis the same again. And third, we'll talk about naming conventions. Basically, how did we name our children? We'll go into a little bit more depth about that. So today, I welcome you to indulge in this conversation and let the small details change you. So guys, grab your pen and paper and get ready. But before we do that, here are a couple of our listeners.
Njĩtagwo Waiyaki Njeri na ndĩ Mũnjirũ Baria Wagura na itũra nĩgura nyũmba ya kĩama.
Rũrĩrĩ thai, nyũmba ya mũmbi thai. Ũyũ nĩ Kariũki wa Kĩmako, mũhĩrĩga witũ nĩ Mũgaciko, ndĩ wa Mbare ya Karĩma. Harĩ marika ma wathani, ndĩ Maina, tũrũnjiarĩtwo nĩ Mwangi. Kũrĩa nyumĩte nĩ Kĩambu, Limuru, itũra-inĩ rĩa Ndeia. Nĩ thengio mũno nĩ gũthikĩrĩria episode ĩno ya Matire Ngemi. Nĩ ngatho.
Thank you, Wairimo in Kenya and Karaoke in the US for sending your intros in. And guys, if you're listening, send us yours too. And we'll give you the email address at the end of the podcast. So Waiyaki, are we ready to jump in?
Yes, we are.
All right, let's do it, guys.
Let's do it. Children are considered wealth. And children have always been considered wealth by the Agikuyu. Because back then, the Agikuyu have always been agricultural in nature. So if you had many children, if you had, say, many wives and very many children, they could till the land faster than any other family. Mm-hmm. They could, in terms of, because the Kikuyus, especially if you had boys, the boys would go to war with other tribes, especially with the Maasai, and they would go on expeditions to raid the Maasai and bring back livestock.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you had a family of 20 strong young men, you would acquire more wealth. Mm-hmm. So having many children was considered great wealth because yes, you could till the land faster, you could harvest faster, you could acquire wealth by going out to hunt or in expeditions to get cattle. So you were considered wealthy. So if a man had maybe just one son and then another man had 5 sons, even if they had a family feud or dispute, the guy with one son would be clobbered for sure.
for sure. And it also reminds me of what we learned, in school, right? Which is really the Maslow's hierarchy. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the bigger your family, the more likely you are to have the basic human needs: food, safety, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Protection, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense. I love that. So the bigger your family, the wealthier you are. The more children you have, the wealthier you are. Okay, keep going.
So to tie that back now from just your nuclear family or your extended family, we're going to go to the entire Kikuyu population, the Agikuyu population. So if you think about it today, the Agikuyu in Kenya are the most populous populous tribe,
Yes.
right? Even though from looking at demographics, our population has not been growing as fast as it has in the past, right? Because I think people are having fewer children, difficult economic circumstances. So the thing with that is if you can contrast that with the US diversity, and I'm sure you've heard in the news, or even our listeners have heard in the news, that by 2050 the Black and brown population will be the majority,
Right.
in the US. If I may ask you a question, Jerry, what do you think is the reason?
Lots of children.
Yeah, so the minorities in this country are having more children
Right.
than the majority. So what that means is if you have a county, a state, in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, the leadership of that state is going to look very different.
Correct.
And that is the same with even in the Agikuyu community. The Agikuyu knew that children would mean more power or more resources. Okay?
I get it.
So it's very critical that if you want to maintain power as a family or as a society, as a tribe, you can't maintain a power with diminishing birth statistics. And so that's just like at the highest level of the analysis, really.
Yeah.
But at the basic level, resources, if you have more children, it was more resources, it was more wealth.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the wealth, or what the Agikuyu considered wealth.
Okay, I love that. So basically, I picked out 5 things, right? So children is equals to wealth, helps you maintain power. More children is equals to more food, more safety, and certainly success in war. Okay, I got it.
Let me say one more thing.
Say one more thing.
And if you and I've had this conversation with a few people here and there, but if you have a family that doesn't have children, especially for boys, because boys are the ones that usually further their ancestral lineage, because most women will be married into another family. Right? So and then in today's society, and we'll come into naming, because of families not having enough children, they have 1 or 2 children. It's very difficult today for a woman to name her father and mother, unless she has 4 children or more.
Right.
Which is not happening.
Right.
So if you have a boy that doesn't have a family, a man that doesn't end up having a family, their ancestral lineage ends.
And I think it's also why perhaps right now people care so much about the iriyidadi, right? The first son. Because if, for example, you have 2 daughters, right? There is no guarantee that you're going to be, your family lineage will continue, right? Versus if you have an iriyidadi and they have a kid, there's almost a guarantee that at some level your family lineage will continue.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about this in another podcast. There are many reasons that the family lineage may not continue. Which we can get into in another podcast, which is more related to past debts that the family owes that hasn't paid, that are being charged.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, but we'll get into that later.
Okay, so now let's go back to the whole idea of birth. So let's start with a woman is pregnant, she's 9 months, and she's having a baby. Talk to us about how this whole process happened.
So, I won't go into the details of giving birth, and the reason is I'm not a qualified midwife.
No kidding.
But, from historical records or historical stories that I've read and heard, is usually the woman who was pregnant would be in her house, in her nyoba, and would be with a qualified midwife. And this midwife was a woman who was qualified, had experience in giving birth, and she had cleansed herself spiritually to be able to deliver this child.
Okay.
Because the midwife would be the first person to come in contact with a child. right? And so for anyone who is interested into the details of childbirth, the book, The Southern Kikuyu, since 1903, or prior to 1903 by L.S.B. Leakey, goes into detail of exactly what happened during childbirth.
Okay.
And I'll spare you the details, obviously.
Thank you.
But okay, so it was the men were never in the woman's house when she was giving birth. It was considered a mogiro, which we talked about the last time. It wasn't something that was encouraged for the men to be there at the birthplace. So when the child was born, the women who were waiting patiently or impatiently outside the woman's house would go in. Once the child had been born, once they were given the signal that the child has been born, and depending on the sex of the child, they would yololate. And so yololate is the word for Ngemi.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's that's the English translation for the word
Could you
Ngemi.
give us a Ngemi?
No,
Because some people might not be able to make the connection.
So
Right, so I think it's important that we hear what a Ngemi sounds like.
If you want to hear how a Ngemi sounds like, please listen to our pilot episode.
I think it's important for people to hear you express a Ngemi in context. So why don't you give us a Ngemi?
I'll put a link in the description.
All right, I'm going to give these people a Ngemi because they want to hear one.
Please do it. Do it.
It's where we go, "Ah, la, 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 la," right?
Yeah.
No? Okay, you didn't think that was a good one. So can you give the people a Ngemi?
Well, we'll.
Give us a Ngemi.
Okay, it's how you go. I'm cutting that part out.
Your skills have improved from the past episode.
Wow.
Excellent. Okay.
So anyway, if the child born was a girl, the women would say 4 Ngemis,
Okay.
and if it was a boy, they would say 5.
Okay.
And so each Ngemi had a meaning, and I'm gonna list them, and then we're gonna go into each.
Why would they say 4 for a girl and 5 for a boy?
Because the 5th Ngemi was only exclusively said for boys.
Ah,
And
okay. So then let's
and
go
I'll
through
explain.
Okay.
I'll explain the reason why.
Okay. All right then. Let's go through the Ngemis. Now I'm really curious.
Okay, so the first Ngemi, what I'll do is let me list them all, and then we'll go through each one.
Actually, even before we do that, can we really talk about the purpose, the deeper purpose of a Ngemi?
That's a really, really good question. So a Ngemi, when a Ngemi is said, and Ngemis are said in many Kikuyu ceremonies, especially involving children, and even not children, even in marriages, even in gurarios and rorashios, they say, I'm sure you'll hear, ugai Ngemi shia kahe, ugai shia mwana wa kahe, or ugai Ngemi shia mwana wa kairetu. So that means say the Ngemis for the girl child and for the boy child. So Ngemis are said in all ceremonies, but Ngemis have a purpose. And purpose is, if I can translate that loosely because I'm translating from Kikuyu, is nogorio. So they say each Ngemi has a nogorio. And it's not really purpose. It's what that means in Kikuyu. It means giving your hopes a life.
Oh,
A life of its own.
Oh, that's really powerful.
That's what it means. So, and it's really, if you could just summarize that, it's each Ngemi was a blessing
Yes.
for this child that is being born.
And it's intention setting based on what you said,
Absolutely.
putting hope into it, like really setting an intention for that child and that child's life.
Yeah, you couldn't put it better than that.
That's so powerful.
Exactly.
Okay. Keep going.
Yeah, so the 5 Ngemis, because all the Ngemis are the same except the 5th one. So the first Ngemi is the Ngemi of Odhamaki. So
What is Odhamaki?
So Odhamaki in literal meaning means kingdom or king. So Mudhamaki means king. But, that's kind of translated at a high level. So the deeper meaning is more leadership, right? Mm-hmm. So we know not everybody is going to be a king or a Mudhamaki or a leader, right? But it meant that for this child, you may be a master of your life, so to speak. Like you may be a man or woman of character. You may be the leader of your household if you're a man. If you may be the leader of your household if you're a woman. You may be a master of your life. You may be of high character.
Yeah.
That's what that Ngemi, the first Ngemi, which is Odhamaki, was. That was the purpose or the manifestation that you wanted the child to be blessed with by God.
That is so powerful. So as a parent, as a community of everybody who's saying that Ngemi, you're really putting the intention and the blessing on that child that you may be a master of your life. May your skills, your talents, blossom so that you are a master of your life. Oh my goodness, that is like insane powerful.
Absolutely. And you have to imagine that this happened right when the child was born. That even before maybe the child cried, the women were saying Ngemis. And the Ngemis could be, in modern day when a child is born, they make it cry so it can start breathing, right? So I'm sure the Ngemis would scare the hell out of the baby.
the living daylights out of that baby.
But yeah, that was the intention of the first Ngemi that was done, either for the boy or for the girl.
That is so powerful, and it's just done. It's moved something in my soul. Okay, so then what was that second Ngemi?
So the second Ngemi is the Ngemi of Oradi. So Oradi comes from the word Kurada. Literally Kurada means to shoot, but in Kikuyu it also means to prophesy. So basically, the purpose of that second Ngemi was to, if the child had the gift of prophecy, to be a prophet, to be able to see the future, to be able to, and it could even be deeper than that in terms of, to develop your intuition, so to speak, to be able to see things before they happen.
Yeah.
So that was the and in Kikuyu we say Ngemi ya kere oya Oradi iraro goreria mwana. Like the purpose of that Ngemi, that's how you actually say it in Kikuyu. To be a prophet or to be able to foresee.
Yeah, and to be in tune with their intuition.
Absolutely.
And if I can take us to the last two podcasts as well, which is even if you think about the Edaga, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that in recent generations, we have suppressed or, like what we called before, like really put negative connotation on those spiritual powers. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to think that in our culture, in our history, we actually celebrated that through the second Ngemi, where we are saying if you have the powers of prophecy, may those manifest in your life. So we really recognized that power and we celebrated it.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful, beautiful way to honor, that spiritual strength that is within our people. Beautiful. So then what was the third Ngemi?
So the third Ngemi is Ogo. So Ogo is, if I could translate that into English, it means, loosely, to have some sort of wisdom or talent, right? But I know a lot of listeners who will hear Ogo or they hear Modo Mogo, and they'll think that it means to be a witch doctor or witch, right? And that's wrong. That's wrong. And I think we touched on it the last podcast. Was really propaganda that was pushed on to really beat down our own spiritual powers or our own spiritual gifts that we had. Mm-hmm. And so Ogo is not only having to be a diviner or a seer or a mystic. Ogo means oge. It comes from the word oge, which is modomoge, somebody who is wise. wise,
And discerning.
not just clever,
Yes,
just
wise.
wise, right?
Yes.
And so, if there are many Kikuyu names that have that describe Ogo. So, for example, Moturi. We have actually a friend whose last name is Moturi. Shout out to Ruth if she's listening. So, Moturi is someone who had the gift of fashioning iron, right? That was an Ogo.
Interesting.
So, yes. And then even a medicine man of herbs, a herbal medicine man, that was their Oge. Okay?
Now it all comes together.
That was their gift. So
Yes.
somebody who knew how to play the geshade, which is a traditional musical instrument, that was their Oge. That was their gift. So you can't just put Ogo in terms of, the mysterious in terms of this person who sees the future or this or that. You can't do that. It's your talent or your gift.
Your unique talent and gift that was put in you by God.
Absolutely.
Right? It's that innate skill
Absolutely.
that you come into this life with. That's beautiful. So that's the third one. We were really, the third ululation or the third Ngemi was all about instilling and helping that wisdom, that oye within your child grow and blossom.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah,
So that was the fourth one.
You put it together really well. So the fourth Ngemi was, it was Otoga. So Otoga, literally means wealth, right? And wealth was not just in terms of financial resources or having land and all that, right? So wealth was looked at in terms of the 5 or so aspects that God would bless you if you were wealthy.
Okay.
The first one was health, or ogimawa mwiri. That's what is called health.
Physical health.
Physical health, yeah. The second one was... so the second otoga is in terms of peace. You're a peaceful person or you're a peacemaker. And you have peace internally in yourself. So, that is a very good blessing from God to have, to be able to be peaceful to others, and to have internal peace. The third otoga that came from that Ngemi, the umbrella is otoga, but inside it there's health, peace, then there's wisdom and knowledge. So knowledge really is acquired, right? So knowledge is acquired where you go to school or you learn a trade. So when that Ngemi is said, it is manifesting for the child that they may acquire knowledge. However, wisdom comes from God.
Yes.
So it's asking God to give that child
Wisdom.
The fourth otoga is children. And so it's manifesting for that child. When you grow up and you get married, may you have children, boys and girls, right? The fifth one is prosperity. Obviously, there wasn't currency back then, but it was, being able to acquire land, being able to acquire mahio, which is livestock. Mahio is the traditional Kikuyu word for livestock. If you hear anybody say mahio, they mean goats, sheep,
I just
cattle,
learned something.
chicken, and all that.
Okay.
And so the funny thing is, you might have financial prosperity or all you might have land and cattle and all that, but you would not be able to enjoy all these other wealth, so to speak, if you didn't have
All five.
All five.
This is so holistic.
It's
you know, it's
holistic,
your
yeah.
physical health, it's peace within oneself and with others, because you know, without health, you have nothing, right?
Absolutely.
It's wisdom in order to be discerning, and knowledge in order to hone your craft. It's children, so
Family.
that your generations can continue, and then it's prosperity. That's super holistic.
Yeah, those are in that one Ngemi is what you're praying the child to have as they grow.
And I think for me, the reason this is so powerful is because, you know, as we grow older, we can see how whole this Ngemi was, right? That our culture was not small. Our culture was big and wide and holistic, right? And I think that's just one of the things I'm taking through from these Ngemis. And I have to tell you, I'm getting this swelling sense of pride in connecting with the fact that some of these things are the things that we go for seminars to learn, right, about ourselves. And in fact, they were part of our tradition.
And they're still part of our
And they're
tradition.
still part of our tradition and culture. That is mind-blowing. So then what was the fifth Ngemi? Because this one was just for the boys, right?
Yes, this was just specifically for boys. And it still applies today, but obviously with the feminist movement,
Which is a great movement,
There's
if I
go-
should add.
there's going to be some challenges here. But I do want to try and explain it so that it can be understood from what the Mogekoyo thought about back then.
Yeah, from a historical context.
So the fifth Ngemi is the Ngemi of Oshaba. And so Oshaba literally means to be brave. Or in Kikuyu it means Orome. And that is why a man is called Modorome. Modowe Orome is that's why the Ngemi was said only for boys. But I'll explain further because I want to be able to make this clear, and I'll use an analogy. And this analogy, I want to give a lot of credit to one very knowledgeable teacher in Kenya called Getau Wangangawa Madhu. So in today's society, you have brave women, you have brave men, brave women, you have women going into the military, you have women going to the police and all that, right? In Kenya, right? And even here. So what happened back then during those times is the Agikuyu never wanted women to go to war.
Why not?
So that's a good question. So, the Gikuyu used to be in constant war with the Maasai.
Yeah.
And they would be, they would trade back and forth. There'd be raiding parties from back and forth, and they would take each other's livestock and take each other's small children as well. And so it was very dangerous, right? So the analogy is this. So if you send 1,000 men to war and 990 men perish, when these 10 men who survive come back home, the women are still there, right? So every woman can still be married to these 10 men, and it would not affect the population growth of that community.
I see. So when we think about it, tying it to the initial discussions about, growing your lineage and growing your family and the value of a big family, right? These few men could continue the community.
They could continue the community, yeah. But so if you send 1,000 women to war and 990 are killed, these 10 women, before they get 1,000 children, how long will it be?
Yeah.
So you'll have destroyed a community completely, and it would take decades, literally decades, because these women have to have children,
Yeah.
and then their children. Before you can get 1,000 children,
Right.
it can take even 50 years.
Yeah, before you regenerate the community. Listen, the modern woman in me struggles with that analogy, but when I take that hat off and I really think about the logic behind it, it makes absolute sense from a logical sense in terms of repopulation, right? From a repopulation perspective, you can do it with a few men, right? And women, you can repopulate faster compared to repopulating with a lot of women and a few men. Logically, it makes sense.
It makes sense. And at the end of the day, going back to what we said in terms of large family, large community, more resources, more power, it's the same thing. If a society or a small community is destroyed, they lose power.
Yeah.
And so back then, if you lose power, you have other tribes that can come and overrun you.
Yeah, exactly. So if we go back to the Ngemi, so this Ngemi was only for men or boys, and it was really said so that they could be brave. They could have urume.
They could have
Akoro mudurume.
Modurume. And the reason for that is because, just to bring it in the modern context, so a brave person can go out and be able to work hard and, navigate difficult life situations and make it happen, right? Because if you think about the brave man of back then, they were putting their life in danger going on expeditions to get cattle.
Yeah.
Their life was on the line. So today, if you're lazy, you're not brave.
Right.
Right? If you're not hardworking, you're not brave.
Brave people are action takers.
Absolutely. They have to take action and they have to take risks in life.
Yeah.
And, back then, the reason that Ngemi was not said for women is they did not want women to have to risk their life.
Yeah. Women were to be protected. Men
Absolutely.
took the risks.
Chivalry existed.
I don't know what had happened with this new generation of Kenyan men, but that's a topic for another podcast.
I'm going to edit that out.
No, that needs to stay in.
Okay. Those are the 5 Ngemis that were said when the child was born. And then the Ngemis would inform the people outside the community what child had been born.
And the father too.
And the father, because the father was outside.
Right, in his hat.
Once he had 5 Ngemis, he knew.
I have a boy.
He had a boy. If he had 4 Ngemis, he knew he was going to name his mother, or if it was a child in another order, it was maybe someone else.
So I think I should ask a modern day question, right? Because I actually asked my dad, did you say Ngemis for me? Or did they say Ngemis for me? So in the modern day situation, we are in a hospital and you have your child born in a hospital. And clearly, it just might not be possible to say the Ngemis in the hospital. So where then, from a modern perspective, if we realize the full, intense value of these Ngemis, where should we be saying these? In the Itera?
No, you say them at home. When you're discharged from the hospital, you should have your friends waiting for you at home to say the Ngemis.
I see.
Obviously, they will know what the sex of the child will be. And so when you arrive home is when the Ngemis should be said.
Yeah. The power of a community pouring that blessing and intention on a child is simply mind-blowing. And the fact that our Ngemis, I always knew about Ululations. Everybody knows about a Ngemi, and we've said them. But you're so right. We had no idea of the intention and the power behind them. And for me, it's just so awe-striking that I have to repeat all 5, right? So the first one is, in essence, when you're saying a Ngemi to your newborn child, you're putting the intention, the blessing to your child, where you're saying, may you have a mastery over your life. May you have good intuition, right? And prophecy, over your life. May you have wisdom and discernment as you navigate your life. May you have wealth, and not just financial wealth, but holistic wealth, physical wealth, peace within yourself and with others, wisdom, knowledge, children, and prosperity, right? And then the last one was for our boys, may you be brave. You just think about that and putting that blessing on a brand new baby, and from the power and of a community, putting that into a child, I'm floored.
And Njeri, Ngemis have been said for centuries. This is our tradition that we have been doing for a very long time.
Yes, but the difference is today, if we say Ngemis, how many of us understand the intention behind it? Because everything is as powerful as its intention. So the reason I love this so much is that now when we go out and we're saying Ngemis for our own children, for our friends' children, our family's children, now we are infusing intention behind that Ngemi, which really increases the chances that this intention will manifest in the life of that child.
Absolutely.
I think it's beautiful. So where do we go from here?
So to go from here, we are going to talk about naming.
Okay.
So naming, I think, is fairly straightforward. So if the first child is a girl,
But then when is the child named? Immediately as they're born, or is it later?
it's actually like assumed, right? Like the child is already named based on their order of birth.
I see. So they're born into this world with a name.
With a name, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So it's not like, in modern day cultures where the couple will pick a child's name, and then, I guess it's official when the name is on the birth certificate.
Right.
Or maybe at a baptism.
Right.
It's the name of the child was based on the order of birth.
Okay.
And so the Agikuyu name their children based on order of birth. So the first child, if it's a boy, is named after the child's father's father, the child's grandfather, paternal grandfather. And if the first child is a girl, the child is named after the paternal grandmother.
What if you have
of the
twins?
child. That's a good question. I'm going to come to that.
Okay.
But so, for example, if you have a boy and then a girl, and then a boy and then a girl, so the second boy is named the wife's father,
The maternal grandfather.
And then the second girl is named after
The maternal grandmother.
a maternal grandmother, right? And then if you have extra children, now you start naming the parents' siblings.
Yes.
And that goes on.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, if you have twins is very interesting. So twins have to be named on one side.
So hold on, let's step back a little bit. So if you have, let's say, a third, so you had two boys, now you're getting your third boy. You said that's being named after the parents' siblings, not the grandparents' siblings, the parents' siblings.
Parent siblings, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Okay,
Parent siblings. And I can give you actually a good example with my own family. My dad has, they were born 5 boys in a row and then 5 girls in a row. And so the firstborn is named after their grandfather.
Yes. Paternal grandfather.
Second boy, named after maternal grandfather. Third boy, who is my dad, Geshanga, named after grandfather's brother.
Okay.
And so on and so forth. And so, like, even for the girls, the same thing. First girl, paternal grandmother. Second girl, maternal grandmother. Third girl, paternal sister.
Yes.
Exactly, and that's how it goes.
Paternal sister, paternal brother. They just keep maternal sister, brother. They just keep flipping down the line.
They keep flipping, and there's a elaborate way of doing that. Like, you can actually map it out, for example. And there are many complex situations that can happen. What if your dad doesn't have a brother? What happens?
I see.
There's more. There are more combinations. Like, you can look at like the grandfather's brother, like the siblings. You can look at those, but it's not very practical because we're not having many children today.
Exactly.
But that's how it was. It was
back then.
That was a system of naming.
Okay, so then what about twins?
And
by the way, I should let the audience know that Waiyaki is a twin.
I am a twin, yeah.
And an identical twin at that. You can't tell them apart. It's really difficult.
No, I'm the more handsome one.
I don't know about all that.
I know my brother is gonna be on my neck. But so twins is very interesting. So twins have to be named on one side based on the order of birth. So I'll give you a unique situation. So if the firstborn child had already been born, and it was a boy. Actually, let's start with if the first children are twins. If it's two boys, the father would name his dad and his sibling, his firstborn boy sibling.
Right.
If it was a boy and girl, the father would name both his parents.
Okay.
Which is kind of easy,
So
right?
twins are named based on the side of the family where they fall.
Where they fall and the order of birth.
Yes.
Because it gets interesting. So, for example, if you have a boy as a firstborn that has already been born, and then the couple has twins, right? So if they have twins, and it's a boy that has been born, like out of the twins, it's a boy and a girl,
Right.
and it's the boy that comes out first. Then the wife gets to name her parents
Yes, both her dad and mom.
before even the husband names his mom.
Yes, because the order fell on her turn for naming.
Exactly. And then this would be really unfair if it was twins and it was a girl first and a boy second. If that was a second birth, then the man would get to name his mother and
His brother.
without the wife ever
Having a name. Got it.
And those situations do happen.
Yeah.
And it is said that separating twins was very, it was not encouraged at all.
Okay.
Because, they came at the same time. They should be named in the same order.
Oh, I see. Okay. So culturally we put them together. Okay, so what about if a child was born without a father?
So what happened to the father?
From a naming perspective. Well, maybe the father was not present.
Okay, so if the father was not present, that's a complicated situation.
Okay.
Because you would have to decide. So it means like this child has been born out of wedlock.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And so the father is not present, and the father doesn't want to be present.
Correct.
So spiritually, that child, whether it's a boy or girl, is tied to the father's lineage. So there's a procedure that would have to be done for. So, good question would be, the child will always be given a name. Let's start there, right?
Right.
But if the child's father never comes into the child's life, and this woman decides, I'm going to go get married, right? The man who marries this woman has to give birth to this child, I'm translating from Kikuyu, has to shiara mwanoyo nabori, basically has to give birth to this child into his own ancestry.
It's almost like adopt him into his own ancestry.
That's the word I was looking for. Adoption. He has to adopt this child traditionally.
Okay.
And to adopt a child traditionally is to ogoshiara mwana nabori, which has been done many times. Even today, it's still being done. Because what happens is that child carries the spirituality of the man's ancestry.
I see.
And you want to cut that if that man is not there.
Yeah. Cut those ties.
Cut those ties, because those ties, they follow that child.
Ah, I see. So, but what about from a naming the child perspective? So the father is not in the picture at all. Who do you name that child after? Does the woman then name that child, let's say it's a boy, after her father?
It's not black and white.
Okay.
Most women will do that. They'll name their father. In today, I've seen many situations where women will name their father or their brother, but the right procedure is, if this woman doesn't get married at all and has a child, that child would become her brother's child. And so the brother would have to adopt the child.
I see.
Traditionally, and give him a family name.
I see.
Okay?
Okay.
And so there are so many permutations of those situations where a lot of the situations is usually you're in a relationship with a man, you give birth, and then you already name the child, the man's family, but then that relationship doesn't
Work.
pan out. What happens? That's usually
The bigger question.
The bigger question.
Right.
And in that case, usually is if she gets married again, then she would have to
Spiritually, her husband would
have to
spiritually adopt the
yeah,
child.
Yeah, and there's processes that have to be done, especially when a woman gives birth, not in a marriage. What happens? There's more we can talk about, not in this podcast.
On the next one. So, this brings up a good point, because I have some cousins who would refer to my dad as mama. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. Right? Or he was their mama.
No, you're saying it right. You're saying it right.
And of course, we all grow up calling our parents daddy and mommy. Well, at least I did. But is that how we traditionally refer to our parents?
No, mommy and daddy, no. So we didn't call our parents mommy and daddy. Those are more English names of referring to your parents. So for your mom, you would call her Maito. And Maito is really Ma Ito. So Ma, it means truth. Ito is ours, right?
Oh.
So Maito and the reason we call her Maito is because she's the one who knows the truth about us, because she gave birth to us.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah,
Ma is
she's
truth.
our truth.
Our truth.
She's our truth.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then your dad, you would call him Fafa or Awa.
Awa.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, those are the ones. That's how we used to refer to traditionally our parents.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And, I have to tell you this small thing, and then we'll close the podcast, which is, growing up, my mom is from Njeri. And so every time we'd be going home when we were kids to visit our grandparents, my mom would have to remind us to greet our shosho as Wakia Shosho. Because we didn't say that in Kiambu. So she'd have to be like Wakia Shosho, So just interesting how greetings and naming is really different from what we do today. Because today we say Neatia or whatever we say,
Yeah. So actually we should cover that in a podcast in the future. What are the proper ways to address your family members, not just your immediate family members, but your relatives, your wife's brother, your husband's sister. We can address some of those naming conventions and how to properly address them.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And also how parents should address their children.
Absolutely.
Right, because I think that's something very interesting, because their children are their parents. So there has to be a level of, I'm assuming, respect as they're addressing their own children. Thank you, Waiyaki, for this rich conversation. It really had a profound impact on me, and I hope it had the same impact on our listeners. I left this discussion, especially the discussion about Ngemis, with a stronger, renewed sense of awe and pride in the Agikuyu culture. So, Waiyaki, before we talk about the topic of the next episode, I just kind of want to re-extend the fun challenge to our listeners. So guys, if you're listening, please send us a recording of your introduction. We talked about what that introduction looked like in episode 1, and we'll put a template of that on our social media pages. So send that in to matire.ngemi@gmail.com, and we'll start posting those in our upcoming podcasts. And guys, also don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and now Spotify. And remember to share this podcast widely. We really do appreciate that. So, Waiyaki, let me ask you this. What is the topic of the next episode, and why is it important?
So we'll talk about the Kikuyu traditional religion.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about African ethics with a focus on Kikuyu traditional morality. So what are the ethics that govern our existence?
I love that. Religion and ethics and morality, based on our culture. I love that topic, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome.
So thank you again, Waiyaki, for this time. Thank you to all our listeners for being present. We appreciate you. And a big thanks to Njenga Gigs, our sound engineer. So guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good one.